Happy New Year, my friend.
And to you too. It's important to say those words, knowing, of course, that all of everyone out there who has higher connections is talking about transformation, change,
Yeah.
and that works right into this month with the just explosive, power pack, transformative. I mean, it's what more could you ask?
Yeah.
How does it get any better than this?
Yes. I love that quote from him. Yes.
But
Um,
that's truly what it is. This is the changing time that we need to be able to move forward, and this is the perfect time for it. And I don't know if you've watched, but there's been several people who have been talking about this since somewhere like around 2017. It's been
mm,
said 2024 is a huge year,
mhm.
and there we go. We've started it.
Yeah. And when I say Happy New Year to people too, there is the weight because I know it's not always happy and it's not always new and not everyone celebrates it the way that I guess our Western society sees New Year's and New Year's Eve and stuff. And I feel like everything can be loaded these days, which for those of us who are in the energy and who are aware and feel things before we even read a news article about what else has happened, we know because we feel it. And saying those words, I think for me right now, it's two-sided because I say them, it's a pleasantry, it's habit. And I also want the energy to change. And by using those words consciously, for me, it is that transformation piece. It's tumultuous, and sometimes you get an interesting response back. Um, and I'm okay with that because I know my settledness, and I'm not always, I'm still human, but I can handle it if other people need to be unsettled and figure that out in their time, space, and minds, right? And I think that's one thing that I wanted to mention and maybe talk to you and the wisdom keepers about today, because those of us who always hold space, you said to me personally, this is a self-care year. If we are not doing it now, it's burnout time, right? I paraphrased, you didn't say those words exactly, but
The
that's how
sentiment was
it
true, yes.
that's how it downloaded into my brain. Um,
And they're adding on to that. Yes, self-care is absolutely crucial, but so is boundaries. You know,
right. Yes.
for instance, I had an incident just a little bit ago. A friend of mine who has a very large piece of land had a horse who transitioned.
Oh,
Well, my sister, who has also transitioned, was very, she loved horses. And she used that as a gateway to come in and have me have another healing. Well, in order to do that healing, the first thing comes through is the energy of what she wanted to heal, which was not really pleasant stuff.
mm,
Um, and so I did the healing, and it kind of messed things up a little bit. Um, but once I did the healing, I realized everything was okay and it
mm.
was back to normal. But those are the boundaries, you know. The energy out there is just swirling. I mean, it's just up and down off the charts.
Yeah.
And yes, they can say, "Oh, all you need to do is more clearing." No, the energy is there.
Yeah.
And the best thing that we can do, yes, we need to do the clearings too. We need to do the healings. We need to do all of that. We need to do the self care. And we need to create our own boundaries.
Mm,
For in my particular case, that means, okay, I will accept this in. If you want to have a healing, you can come to me, but knock on the door first and let me know that you're here.
Right.
and we can talk about it, and then we can do the clearing or the healing or whatever needs to be done.
Right.
It's not just you come and you just throw it at me and
Mm.
take my complete energy in a different direction for a day or so.
Yeah.
No, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You have to be respectful and polite.
Yeah. Good for you. And
So,
100%. It's interesting too because I've set some boundaries with students, graduated students, and some clients, and um, it was it was great. And my old self went, "Oh, I got to apologize because I have to explain why I'm doing this now, or why I didn't respond fast enough, or why I set that boundary." And there are some people, like with one of my students, she's graduated, lovely, very, very sweet person. And, but I put up a boundary because they wanted to talk about work stuff and catch up, which I love that. And that's work time for me. I could be friends with this person. Absolutely. We're not there yet. And the line is a little bit gray. 100% that is on me because that's from the past. But when I set this boundary and said, well, this is kind of work stuff for me, how about, and I charge for that. And I set the boundary and I kind of surprised myself. But I went with the flow and I did it with grace and I shared with love. And then afterwards, I did say, I've created these new boundaries for myself. So I kind of explained myself a bit. And I know that she's the type of person, and maybe this is something, if someone's watching, they can take away too, because I know they're the type of person to receive the information and not use it against me, not use that slight vulnerability there where I'm explaining myself, that they're not going to turn around and say, "Oh, I'm going to push," right?
mhm.
So the people that I feel would push and do push, I didn't I just set my boundary with love, and this is how it is, and we'll talk about it later or whatever. And it's interesting how when we adjust to these redefined moments of ourselves, we it takes a step back, and then we go 2 steps forward, and then we take a few steps back, and then we do a little dance.
And that's a big part of this whole time is that little dance.
Okay.
Lots and lots and lots of little dancing,
Yeah.
um, and dancing everywhere. I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard that word recently, like in the
Oh.
last week or so. Dance, dance,
Yeah,
dance.
actually, yeah, that's so neat. It came up in session with someone yesterday. That's awesome.
And it's not a coincidence at all. As you know, neither one of us believes in coincidence. There's a reason that word dance is coming out.
Yeah,
That it goes with part of the self care is what brings you joy? What else can you do that will bring you more joy?
right.
Because that's the energy we're going to need to be able to make it through the time. And I'm not saying it's going to be necessarily bad. I think it's going to be here and there, and there's going to be lots of things because we are a global world. All of these things, just like everything is right now, these things will affect the entire world. But it's not like doomsday boom here. It's awful. It's more like what is that word? Transformation. Isn't that what she said? And transformation doesn't necessarily come all in one fell swoop.
No,
Sometimes there are events that are slightly larger and move the ball forward a little quicker.
right.
But there's also the smaller increments that are the quote lessons learned,
Yeah,
and it's all to be integrated. And the easiest way to integrate it is if you're also having fun.
exactly. Yes. So there's something you reminded me. Um, Yesterday, I went back in my journals and looked at my intentions, like the new moon intentions and stuff like that, from the last year and a half. I was curious about one very personal thing. and how long I've been giving it love and attention and intention and hope, perhaps. Um, Curious on how it was going to change and where it was going to go and that kind of thing. And it has taken a year and a half. It's taken a year and a half from the time I started that writing. And this wasn't a small task, but it was very, very intense. And it involved other people in my life too. So when other people's free will and soul and journey are involved, we have to remind ourselves of that divine timing that you're talking about. Those little increments make the bigger difference in the long run. Just like people think about losing weight or dieting or exercising differently or whatever it is, that more of the general public perhaps still thinks of in transitions and longer lasting transitions. And um, now, just now, am I feeling that full-hearted expansion around
and
this topic.
that is absolutely perfect for the larger message, because as we know, the human linear date of when something starts, let's say 2024, it's not really when it started, and that's not necessarily where it's really going to end. In fact, what we're hearing is 2024 is the big transformation, but don't expect it to be all roses in 2025.
Right.
There's still going to be a lot to be done,
Yeah.
uh, or there's going to be it's going to continue at least through 2025.
Yeah.
I have heard people saying, well, it's not going to change until 2030 or 2040 or no, it's these 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing.
and especially this year, I guess there's something it's tied into like the Mayan calendar or something,
Cool.
that this year is the one.
Sorry. Um, Total sidebar. I was at uh I was at the little church that I help and use as a rental space yesterday. When you said Mayan calendar, I was looking for a tablecloth for a small table, and I went into the cupboard and there was this beautiful lace tablecloth. It's a Mayan calendar.
No coincidences.
No coincidence. I remember just looking at it and being like, "Oh, this is so lovely. This is really deep. Oh, wow, there's something here. Okay, well, it'll come out when it's supposed to, and I'll figure out the connection and why I've laid this on the table."
And of course, the Mayan calendar is tied in very closely to all of the American South and North and Central uh, indigenous peoples,
Right.
and all of their wisdom and such too.
Mm.
And they too have been saying that this year is going to be a really big one.
Wow.
So um, it's going to be a really big year. What can we
Right.
say? It's
Yeah.
going to be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be doom and gloom. We don't have to go to a place of fear.
Right.
We can continue and need to continue to stay in a place of love, to
Yes.
stay in the place like you were mentioning, holding the space for this year to do what it needs to do, for humanity to do what we need to do,
Yeah.
to be able to move forward from where we have been
Hmm.
into where we want to be.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Yeah. So, are there things that you wanted to bring up today? Or are there things that the wisdom keepers are just right at the edge of making you just shout out things?
You mean you haven't heard it already?
I can just feel it. I can feel it. Oh my goodness. Yes. Tapping into my clairsentience is that was one of the best things. I'm like, that's why I feel so much all the time. That's where that's coming from. Oh, right. I feel everything. I don't always hear it audibly, but I Oh, it's right.
Mm,
Yeah.
that is one message for all of us who are, quote, sensitives.
Mm,
And I really believe that that again is a spectrum. We're all on it somewhere. Some of us a little more so. Those of us who are a little more so, we are really feeling it right now.
mm,
And we will continue to really feel it because there's a lot of momentum going on.
right.
There's a lot of waves coming in. Will they be the same as the Schumann anomaly in June of last year?
Mm,
We'll see. You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh,
Exactly.
I don't know exactly what waves are coming. I don't. They don't. They're not exactly going to tell me any more than what we've already had because they really want us to use our free will and to make the choices um, ourselves to move forward the way that we want to be able to build and create this new year. But I don't know if you've seen it or not. I've seen it all over the place, that we create our reality. And that's just coming up so strongly right
Mhm.
now. And it makes sense. They want us to know we're being supported, we're being guided, but we are the ones who are making the creation.
Yeah.
And we can choose, which way are we going to make it? Which way are we going to see it? Even in some of the events that have happened in the recent past, like in the last year or so, we can see those as devastating, awful, horrible, or we can see those as okay, something that needed to go left, and now we have a way to rebuild, and we can rebuild it even better. And that's a huge message of what's coming through right now, everywhere. And but
Excellent.
they're like, make sure you say this. Okay, fine, I'm saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And true, right?
And very important for this month, for this year, and the next year, and maybe beyond that.
Most definitely.
But the sense I'm getting is that those of us who live through these these years, however many they be, and right now they're saying these 2 years, we'll get to the other side of that and say, you know, it's like we have done for generations in the past. When all technology came in, and we went from a horse and buggy society to cars and phones, and we're going to be saying the same kind of thing when we get to the other side of this.
Well, again, I said something similar to that the other day to Scott. I said, I am so glad that I know what it's like. Oh, what was it? It was either to get up and have to like adjust rabbit ears on the TV or um oh, it was something about the cell phones and um I don't know, but we explained to Sky that you didn't always know who you were calling when you phoned a number, right? You knew the family, you knew the house that you were calling, but you didn't know who was going to answer the phone. So, and I love that I have those experiences. I love that I know what it feels like to not always have your phone on you and to have it attached to the wall and have that cord going down the hallway into the
And
bathroom
out
to
through
have
the
a
yard, and yeah.
yeah. So it stretches out to the well or whatever it is, like, oh my gosh. So, and
and
just
and speaking of which, this is kind of really pertinent to everything we're talking about, is the prediction from Tesla back before 1900
yes.
that eventually we would be talking to people all over the world on a screen